Okay, what's going on, guys? No guys here. Welcome back to another weekly tactics update. I know this one's a bit late, but I thought I'll make the video anyway. In regards to the 352 or the 325, I'm really happy that you guys are enjoying this tactic. It defends in a 442 as I mentioned on yesterday's video. Just a couple of things to note. Someone actually asked a very interesting question. Don't you lose the ability to defend in a back five, which you have naturally with a 352? It's true. The best thing about a 352 is when you defend, you have the left mid and right mid. They come back and it makes that back five. And you have two CDMs. That is why it's always been, in my opinion, top three formations inside the game. The thing is that now post-patch, they kind of nerfed how does left mid and right mids kind of act. They take even longer to come back. And sometimes you can find yourself exposed with three centre backs. And the main benefit of using a 4-4-2 system, that is when you're attacking. Like, if you think about, for example, why do all the pros go from a 3-4-2-1, sorry, a 4-3-2-1 should I say, to a 4-4-2, is a simple element that you can press the best. 4-4-2, naturally because of its shape and how you cover the pitch, is the best formation for pressing. When you have a back five, let's say for example your opponent has the ball, let's say the opponent has the ball over there. If you've got a back five, number one, you lose a player in midfield. So now you've got two centre mids, and then that means you've got three attackers. If you use like a 5-2-3, maybe you can get away with it, but ideally, you'd want a spread out front, like kind of like a fan approach, like this, like, you know, a left wing, a right wing, because if the ball's on the right hand side, there's no one occupying this position. And that is why the 4-4-2, and also in real life football, it's also very, very good for being compact. You can't really replicate the same thing in the game, or 4-4-1-1, or 5-4-1, or 4-5-1. In real life, players interchange depending on overlaps, stuff like that. But that is why this formation is good, because the ball is here, you got a left wing. If the ball is over there, you got the right wing. If the ball's between the two centre backs, or if the ball goes back to the goalkeeper, you can push with one striker and still have one striker occupy other two centre backs. So although in theory, player for player, because of the goalkeeper, you can't be 11 versus 11. It will always be 11 versus 10 for the ball carrier, because the goalkeeper on the opposite side has to stay inside the box. So that is why the 4-4-2 is very, very good. So yes, you do lose that five back presence, but that's why I think it's very, very good. The tactics have been released yesterday in yesterday's video. I strongly recommend you watch yesterday's video. I'm using it right now. I've tested this as well, so a couple of 20-0 players tested it. I've tested it myself, and of course I've got some rank 4 and rank 5 and average players testing it. The only thing I would say is, as I mentioned in the video, is that when you go from that 3-5-2 to that 4-4-2, you could find yourself exposed. I would say this is more of a skill issue, and I'm just going to pause it here. I'm going to go through it slowly. You can pause it while I explain it. But you can literally just try to be a bit more solid when you get counter-attacked. Remember I mentioned this. Cecilia comes back to right mid when you're defending to make the 4-4-2. Zambrotta becomes a right back, so that what makes the back four. Neymar is on stay forward, and then Athenea goes to left mid. Simple as that. So Alexia and Valverde, they stay put always. Zambrotta comes back to make the back four. Athenea goes to left mid, and then Cecilia goes to right mid. Now another question I got asked is, can you flip the instructions? Can I make the right mid stay forward? Yes, you can, but then you also have to flip the instructions of Cecilia. So if you're making your right mid stay forward, then for example your left mid has to come back in offense. Does that make sense? So just flip the instructions the other way, and you have to have Neymar and come back in offense as well. So that's how you can make it defend on the other side. Because I know people like attacking on either side, and it's good like that. So anyway, stay central, stay forward, get in behind for the striker. Same, but come back in offense. Cam's on come back in offense. That makes the left mid and right mid as well. Neymar stay forward for him, getting behind the box, getting behind, getting to the box for a cross, should I say? Both CDMs on cut passing lane, step out attacking and cover center. And right mid on come back in offense. And this is all in yesterday's video, so I'm not going to go over this too much. And these are tactics. Long ball, as I mentioned, is important. So when you get the ball, players make their runs going forward. And that is why I kind of went with a lower width, because you defend in that 4-4-2. And if you do find this to be a 2 attacking, you can reduce the depth down to 50. As I said, I would say maybe if you're like a rank 5 player, you have to be honest with yourself. Like, you know, I'm not going to paint a pretty picture just so you like me. You have to be honest. If you know you're struggling with this formation, as I've always told you, tune things for your playstyle. It's like if I'm playing another game and I'm not that good at it, I will change it. That's what you have to do. You have to always change things. You know, if you copy Tex's or Anders Pro 20-0 tactics, do you think you're going to get 20-0? You have to ask yourself that question. You can try to tune things to help you get 20-0, but you have to be realistic as well. If my grandma starts driving the fast F1 car, she's going to win the race. I doubt she'll pass the first corner. But that's another story together. Now, with this, you need to pair it with a defensive formation. Now, I explained to you my 5-2-2-1. This was kind of in my arsenal for some time. I tried to replicate a 3-4-2-1. So look at the structure. It's kind of a 3-4-2-1 with a left back and right back. Now, this is still a good formation. I'm going to leave this here just because I know not everyone's going to watch last week's video. But this is basically, you can just pause this, by the way. You can always slow the video down, manipulate the video. It's very important that you do it yourself. Remember, I can't make a 30-minute video and I can't be 10 minutes. So always manipulate the videos for yourself. Now, this one I've already explained last week. I'm not going to go over this. You can check that out. Now, this formation probably has to go. This 3-5-2 has to be paired with a more of a defensive formation. And the best thing to use is probably like a 4-2-3-1. Someone else asked me this question as well. Now, the 4-2-3-1, if you saw that video that I mentioned, it's still the best top 3 formations inside the game. It's the rollers change. The way pro players and users formation, the rollers change. It's still the same attacking formation per se, but it's not as prominent as you would see now because of 4-3-2-1. People playing a bit more narrow, a bit more defensive. This is more a formation for closing and controlling the game. That's where I really see. I look at this formation like a 4-4-2 with like that striker. You know, like in real life, you see a lot of 4-4-2s with strikers. They know when and where to basically come in midfield to make kind of a midfield 5. That's exactly what this formation is. I literally got everyone to stay back, left back, right back, and overlap. So if they do make that run going forward, they make the overlapping runs. But everyone's on stay back, cut passing lanes, and all one come back in defence. And then what you can do is I just put the width down to 39 and a depth down 39. It's just in case you want something off memory, just do it like this, and you can do something like this, balanced. Go with 45 as an example, and then go with 41. So width you can kind of play around with. You can go anywhere from 35 to 75. That's not important. But the depth I'd always put on 39. That way your team don't push up too much. And this way you have a more of a controlled formation. So if, let's say, for example, using the 3-5-2, and you'll find that you're struggling a lot more, you need a formation alongside it. It's another skill gap as well. Is knowing when to change formation. A lot of people, when they're losing 2-0 inside the game, they might be thinking, oh, I'm losing 2-0 or I'm losing 1-0. They need to change immediately to the 4-2-4. That's not the right thing to do. It depends on the player. Sometimes you could be 1-0 down in the game. A lot of times I see gameplay. And I analyze a lot of people's game and I'm coaching and I see, okay, someone's gone 1-0 down. They might start on a 4-2-3-1 and instantly they've gone to the 3-5-2. Is that a good thing? You could even be more attacking, you could concede more goals. Just because your opponent scores, doesn't mean you have to change formations. It's kind of like a substitute. Like, you know, in real life, you know, everyone always says, oh, why do managers not make subs early? Managers give a little bit of instructions at half time, let the players go out for 10-15 minutes. See, can they make a difference? If not, then they sub a player off. But that's what I think anyway. It's that every time it works, we don't think about it. But every time it doesn't work, we critique the managers. So it's kind of the same thing. You know, if you go 1-0 down, just see how the game fares. If you're using the 4-2-3-1 and you find that, okay, my opponent has now, because your opponent could change formation as well. So let's say, for example, they go more defensive. It could be even worse for you. So let's say you use a 4-2-3-1 and your opponent has now changed. Let's say they've scored a goal. And let's just say they kept on their 4-4-2, right? Match it. See how it is. If you're struggling to attack, then maybe you can be like, okay, you know what? Then I'll change to a 4-4-2. Because these are all things you got to think about. If your opponent's using a 4-3-2-1, one thing that could be exploited is one, the fullbacks always go forward. If you change to a 4-4-2 with 4 players on stay forward, more of a high level thing to do, but you can counter that. So that's all the things you got to think about. So the 4-2-3-1 would be used as a defensive formation. So you can start with a 3-5-2. But if you're struggling or you feel like the game is getting away from you, or maybe you're winning 1 or 2-0, you can always change to the 4-2-3-1 or even just revert back to normal 3-5-2. That's just something on a high level that I think a lot of people don't understand. Tactics are good, but you need to know when to change. Don't just go 1-0 down and be like, okay, and I'm off to change to attacking formation. It doesn't work like that. Give it some time. If it doesn't work, see how the game is playing, then change. Remember, if you give this formation to every pro player, they're still going to get 20-0. They can play anyone. They're still going to win. So at the end of the day, it's about a game plan and understanding these things. Someone also asked that question as well. The 4-3-2-1, we have just left it. This formation probably never leave the slot. This is kind of like a fail-safe. It's the most meta formation inside the game. I kind of match it sometimes. What you're seeing a lot of people do is, you know what, I'll make a video on that. I was going to say 4 different variations of the 4-3-2-1. I'll make a video on that and I'll release that as well in the future. But yeah, this is the regular 4-3-2-1. This was a bit of PH Zin's tactics. The only thing I don't like is, for example, I like everyone to be on state central, personally speaking, and everyone to be on get it behind. That's just me. I just like to have movement. I think when you're like PH Zin and you have like a specific play style, you're trying to cross the ball in a lot, it's a bit different. And that is why I think also a lot of you guys are saying, I don't like the players on stay central getting behind. You like them to be in the middle. You don't like them to go away. You like them to make runs in behind. Don't forget, players like PH Zin, there's a lot of triggering. These are two centre mids. Neymar makes the left mid, and Athenea makes the right mid to defend in a 4-4-2. So it's something like this. So Neymar goes here, Kiba goes there, and then Athenea comes there. That's how you defend that 4-4-2. And then left back, stay back, and right back balanced and overlap. And that's what makes that right back going forward. So that has pretty much not changed. These are the tactics that I'm using. I always change this up. This is a question I get asked a lot as well. Does a patch sometimes directly influence things? Sometimes not. So what I find is when a patch comes out, let's just say, for example, to be candid here, not sugarcoating this, people don't even know what's changed. People keep saying, oh, the patch changed this, patch changed that. They don't even know what they're talking about all the time. But they think those things are changed. That's the difference. They think it. And if they think it, they will change the way they play. So people sometimes play a bit more defense. That's why sometimes as a patch comes out, defenses might be a bit open, people experiment. But as time goes on, people play a bit more passive. You're seeing that. Think about this now for the past 2 weeks. You've seen people being more passive, more defensive, and therefore you have to be more attacking. So that is why I try to play around with the depth and the forward runs. It's very minute every single week to week, but I find that this is a big thing. Small differences. Does it make that much of a difference for a top tier player? Probably not, but I think for the casual, it does, because, you know, a difference between putting balanced and putting long ball on can make a big difference if you don't know L1 triggers. But these are just all the small things that are taken into account. But I think if you're sitting here and you're a 20-0 player and you're watching this video, you don't need to change those things. You only need to change those things if you're versing a top tier player. Like if you're a pro player watching this now, you should have a coach alongside you, or at least someone that's analysing gameplay for you, that's analysing your opponent. So that way you can know, for example, oh, if my opponent's right back is on overlap, I need to have a tactic where my left back is on stay back while attacking that way, and my left mid is on. So let's say if I was versing another pro player, or let's say I was coaching a pro, I would say, okay, you need to have a formation where your left mid and your left back is on comeback and defense. So when your opponent attacks with their right attacking mid and their right back, you got a 2v2. You're not getting doubled up. You're not getting outnumbered. So on that level is a bit more different. You're analysing gameplay, you're seeing what the opponents do, and don't forget in Foot Champs you're just basically playing a random play. It's not you don't know who you're playing. It could be any Tom, Dick, Harry and Jessica. You don't know who it is. So these are just all the few things that you got to remember. So that's why on the pro level it's a bit more different. They normally have a coach. At least they should have a coach, someone analysing gameplay. Even if they think they shouldn't improve their gameplay, they should be there just someone to keep their mentality in check, calm them down, and also analyze gameplay to see how the opponent's playing. That is the most important thing, is seeing how opponents play. Can you imagine in real life football, if you go into a game you don't know what style the manager plays? Imagine like every team was unknown, was a question mark, and you find out on the day who you're playing. Teams won't perform the way they do. That's how teams perform masterclasses in real life. And then we have the 4-2-4 with constant pressure. This is just a gung-ho tactic. So this is the one that I use when I'm like 2-0 down, 3-0 down at like 60 minutes. I would never really use this formation very early on unless I feel like I'm up against a very weak player and I feel like they're just susceptible to pressure. But this is the real comeback tactic. I think now my finishing is getting better because I'm using precision shooting a lot more. The downside with me is teaching this game is I'm always switching between assisted and precision, and that is the worst way to practice, because when I make a video for like you guys or everyone else, I have to use assisted because I try to show basic football without minimal change. That's why I don't use skill moves, so everyone can copy it very easily. It's very hard to switch back and forth, and I'm actually having a lot of difficulty switching between it. But if you want to see an advanced defending, I'm kind of getting into as well, but those videos actually will be on my Patreon series, patreon.com/NoGuides. If you want to get better at FC24, we're actually doing videos now on advanced defending, when tackle, when the short tackle, when should you use it, and then also precision shooting as well. That's coming up in the next week or so, next 2 weeks after those have been made. But those are the tactics. As I said, look, it's all about combinations, okay? So if we've got a very attacking formation, the 3-5-2, we've got something a bit more defensive. So at least one formation to close the game out or start the game with, just kind of test your opponent. One that's very good defensively, defends in a 4-4-2, attacks in that 3-2-5. Kind of inspiration from Arsenal as well on this one. 4-3-2-1, attacks in a 4-3-2-1, defends in a 4-4-2. These are very, very good formations. This is more of an aggressive setup, I would say, because you're defending in that 4-4-2. You're trying to apply pressure. 4-4-2, the best formation for pressing. And then you've got the 4-2-4. Now, when I mentioned to you earlier, if you have that 5-2-2-1, if you really still like that formation, you could put it here in the 4-2-4 slot. Because then what you could do technically, this is more of an advanced thing, but let's say that 5-2-2-1, you could use the 5-2-2-1 and then just put, let's say, on an example, this defends in a 4-4-2, so you can literally just put team press with the D-pad tactics. So that's how you can also replicate the 4-4-2 as well, because you're still defending. You can do it in any formation, either of these. So don't forget, these are a 4-4-2 when you're defending. This is just a 4-2-4 when you're attacking and when you're defending. But anyway, those are the wiki tactics, a bit of explanation as well. And then I think I like these kind of videos as well, because I know people don't want to see the same thing again. Of course you want to see the tactics, but ask your questions down below, and next week I'll do it like how I did this style. So you see I answered most of your questions, or some of the ones that I thought are very important that people would like to know in this video. I'll do the same one for next week's video, so you can see the tactics, and also you can understand and get some answers for some of the questions you may have. Yes, thanks for watching. Don't forget Patreon series. Don't get better after 1 month. You'll refund your Man Nil guys guarantee. Thanks for watching. Take it easy, and I'll catch you next time. Peace out.